welcome to Bronx Talk. Older folks might remember the rotary dial phone. And then, of course, came the digital push-button phone. What a revelation that was. And as time passed, we then used flip phones. Now, of course, everybody has, like I do, has one of these incredible communication capabilities that also put your entire photo library, your entire music library, and just about everything you need literally in the palm of your hands. And as intelligence has continued to advance, we have now crossed a line. We now have artificial intelligence, an advancement that has given us the ability to perform complex robotic surgeries with precision and accuracy. We can use AI to defuse a bomb, detect breast cancer at an early age, improve manufacturing on assembly lines, and even explore our universe all the way from the bottom of the oceans all the way up to outer space. Of course, there is another side to artificial intelligence, AI, causing the loss of jobs, privacy concerns, and of course, it's now affecting political campaigns with phony ads, videos, and robocalls. Tonight, that's our subject, artificial intelligence. Usually we talk about intelligence. This will be artificial intelligence. We've brought in two professors who are very intelligent to help us sort out the good, the bad, and the ugly. Please join me in welcoming a professor in the communication department at nearby Manhattan College, Dr. Michal Grabowski. Dr. Grabowski, thank you for joining us.
My pleasure, thank you.
And a visiting research scholar and adjunct lecturer in philosophy at Lehman College and the CUNY Graduate School is Professor Ryan Miller. Professor, nice to have you with us.
Thanks for having me.
So we're going to show some things. We're going to have a little fun with it because, after all, AI is fun, I guess. But let's just, how did we get here? At what point, how many years ago, did somebody say, hey, look what we can do, and then, of course, developed into what is now a good thing and a bad thing? What do you think?
Well, we can trace the origins of artificial intelligence back 60 years. And in fact, a lot of large corporations and government agencies have been using proprietary versions of AI for some time now. But it was really in November of 2022 when the OpenAI Institute released to the public this generator called ChatGPT, that it really took the world by storm. And so now all the major corporations are playing catch up, as well as a lot of small players.
And what you said is something you deal with probably all the time. And I have seen, like a lot of people have seen, ChatGPT out there. This is the first time I finally really understand what. So that was the original generator of these images and of this new style.
It really sped up the marketplace, and a lot of companies that you see advertising themselves as AI companies are really just algorithms that are laying on top of ChatGPT or one of its competitors.
And how long ago was that? And then what I'm trying to get to is kind of a line that got us to where we are today.
Yeah, we're only a little less than a year and a half
really?
From that debut. So in this past year, we've seen a real acceleration of not just the tools themselves, but also the hype around the tools.
Did I characterize it properly in the beginning to saying, like, look at all the great things we're doing. On the other hand, there are things that we got to deal with?
Absolutely. You know, in my field, we talk about technology being a Faustian bargain, that it gives some benefits, but there's also new risks and new problems that every new technology introduces.
And many, I mean, I mentioned job loss. Many corporations are saying, well, wait a minute, why am I paying all these people when I have a computer and I can just generate that? I mean, that's quite challenging for all of us. Professor Miller, people could look at us and look at this and say, well, wait a minute, is that real? Or we say, is it real or Memorex? Is that real or AI? But it does have some serious implications. How does somebody know? Let's just use a husband and wife. And then the wife gets a picture of the husband with some other woman and says, wait a minute, what happened? And it might actually be false. It might actually be phony. What's the social intelligence, what is the social implications of those things?
Well, first of all, I just want to note that it's not necessarily a new problem, right? So people have been able to Photoshop images, distort images and stuff for a while.
Yes.
And so I like what the communication professor was saying about it being a kind of a new widespread thing. What we've done is, as so many cases of technology, take something that was expensive and hard to do and made it cheap and mass market rather than being like a totally new capability.
Well, excuse me, that's a very important point, because it is true you can Photoshop and there's all different ways of creating photos, but this put it in the hands of everybody at very inexpensive ways.
That's exactly right. And I do think that's an issue. And I don't think there's any silver bullet. I mean, there are some things that AI has historically been bad at. I mean, historically, only like a year and a half now. It's crazy how we're talking.
I know, it's funny, I thought about it, it's like it's been with us forever, but I guess not, yeah.
Like kind of matching backgrounds and subjects, getting the number of fingers right on hands. There's some kind of jokes out there about things that AI has not been great at. But those things are going down by the day, right? Like now I think we'll find that it's very hard even for experts to tell images apart. When computer scientists create big data sets to actually see, on average, can people tell which images are AI and not, they find people are doing no better than chance these days. So there really is no silver bullet anymore.
You led right into, now you communicated to me that you saw the Times article, and I actually had already selected that as something we were going to do here. So we have some pictures. I'm going to put them up one at a time. What the Times did was present some photographs and ask people, what do you think? Is it, again, real or Memorex? Was this real or AI? So folks, let's just put up the first one. So this guy, I looked at this picture, and he looks like a handsome young man who I have seen somewhere, and so I clicked, this is a real guy, and this in fact is AI.
I gave these to my class the other day, actually. I'm teaching a class on artificial intelligence here at Lehman this semester. And that one they were actually able to pick out because of the contrast with the background. They thought the background was a little fishy, and I think they were right. But I tell you what, on the set of 10, they still only got 5 and 5. So,
wow. All right. Well, I pulled 4 of them. Now this guy, also, I mean, yes, I realize it's a nice photograph. It doesn't look like it's kind of like a cell phone photograph. But this guy also is AI. This was like generated out of nothing, right? It's crazy.
Yeah.
Let's go. We got others. We got 2 or 3 more, 2 more, I think. Now this one I looked at just for the same reasons that you just said, and I said the lighting is off. Her eyes look glazed. Maybe she's wearing a lot of makeup, but I said this is AI, and in fact that's a real photograph. Blow my mind, will you? And let's go to the next one. And now compare that woman with this young woman, and I looked at it. Maybe I should have realized that it is an AI photo, but she looks like people you see in this. It's a nice photo.
Yeah, it's like a perfect photo, but it could be a senior yearbook shot or something, it's hard to tell.
It's just crazy. Expensive? Is it expensive to do this? Or frankly, anybody with a computer can get the software, and I don't want to tell people to do it, not unless you're going to, cure cancer or something. But
well, I mean, it's expensive to build the model, because a lot of these generative AI programs, the AI that actually produces something, a lot of them are pre-trained, which means that the way they're able to do what they do is that they're fed thousands or millions or possibly billions of images and pieces of text, and they seek out the patterns of those texts so that when they receive a prompt saying produce this, they average together all of these patterns that they've already have analyzed and to produce the image. So it's expensive to train the algorithm, but it's not expensive to ask a question of it.
Well, to ask a question and get the software. I mean, it's like any other software.
ChatGPT version 3.5 is free. You can just sign up for an account.
So there's your answer, folks. If you want to get it, you got to figure out how to use it.
3.5 doesn't do images, though, in the same way that 4 does.
That's right. So ChatGPT version 4 has access to a program called DALL-E, which actually produces images, and that's $20 a month.
But if you download the Microsoft Edge browser, you can use it for free.
That's like practically the price of Zoom. But what were you going to say?
If you download the Microsoft Edge browser, Microsoft's giving it away for free. So
wow,
that's right.
We are going to talk about. I want to show some more stuff so people can really. And these were images you generated.
That's correct. So I put in text prompts. I don't like to say that I created the image because it was the AI that created the image. I just merely prompted it to produce these images.
He discounts all association with the possibility. All right, so let's put it up. This I'm going to read what you said. It's a 16.9 aspect ratio. This is what you asked, right?
This is exactly what I asked.
Of a sepia tone 19th century photo taken by a 4x5 camera, which was the old style camera, right? Of children producing, I don't want to say what it is, in a factory, in a steam-powered factory, which of course looks like the early 1900s. The children are happy but sweating under the hot conditions. The photo should have appeared weathered, so you told AI to make it look like that.
Exactly.
Right? As if it were put that back up if you would, Rebecca. This is just so fascinating to me. So this is it, and they're making cell phones. So if you look at the early 1900s, little did we know that they were putting kids in sweatshops. You made them look like they were really working hard and on assembly lines. And they were making cell phones.
So what I'm studying now is this quality that I call artifacts of production. And so when we look at a documentary film or old pictures, some of the attributes of those elements that we make associations with, this must be real, are the act of documentation. So lens flare in a camera shot or scratchy audio suggests to us, oh, this wasn't created and polished, this was actually captured and recorded, and that's what I'm watching, the recording.
Wow. But you can say to the software, please, I guess you type it in or you say it, it doesn't barely matter.
You could do either, yeah.
Then you say add a couple of record sounding scratches on the music so it comes out that way. That is positively scary. All right, let's do the next one. All right. You are a first grade student in an art class. Make a crayon drawing of your family. You have a box of 16 crayons and an 11 by 17 inch piece of white paper to work with. And here's what they generated.
Right, so I'm testing what DALL-E understands and what it can produce. And you can see that this doesn't necessarily look like a 6-year-old child produced it. It looks like an adult imitating a 6-year-old child produced it. And there's also what I call the race problem with a lot of these AI programs.
So here we go. Oh, because they would make assumptions about the kinds of people you want.
I didn't mention anything about race, and here it is, it produced a white family.
Then you criticized them, you disciplined them, and said, "Hey, wait a minute! This is too sophisticated a drawing for a 6-year-old. Make the drawing," and then all of a sudden they turned that out.
So you can coach the AI, provide it with feedback, and say, this is wrong, or I want more of this. And you're actually influencing the algorithm as you do that because it's learning as you are conversing with it.
I mean, I'm speechless which I'm rarely speechless. It's my job to talk, but you look at it and it's just incredible. If my child came or my granddaughter came home with that, I'd say, oh, what a lovely picture. Maybe she'll learn to do it and she won't have to draw it, which is one of the problems. All right, we got another one. This is, this I love. This is produce a watercolor image of the Grand Concourse in the Bronx. And there, it looks like a painting. Let's be real, it doesn't quite look like it. But the fact that they could generate it. Now, was this in AI's technology or intelligence, if it were? They know what the Grand Concourse looks like. They could they could find it in there.
Well, I would ask residents of the Bronx to take a close look at this picture and see if you can identify the block, if it's a real block or if there are deviations from what that block actually looks like. I did a reverse image search in Google to see, does this image actually exist? And that's kind of a criticism with AI, is that, oh, well, this is just copying other people's work. I couldn't find anything on the web that looked exactly like that.
That does not, you know, I know the Grand Concourse very well. First of all, you need an island in the middle, in the large part of it. I mean, maybe down at the northernmost end. No, that island in the middle goes all the way. What were your thoughts? You were shaking your head.
Oh, just, I mean, sort of what you're saying about teaching it. There's a lot you can do. You could add, like, if you really want a watercolor style, you could say in the style of Winslow Homer or something like that to get a more particular watercolor style. And you can also, in terms of that context you can give it, you can now even upload a whole book. So you could upload a whole book of old paintings or discussion of painting, and then say, use all this as context to interpret my prompt.
And so, or you could upload presumably pictures of the Grand Concourse and then have it, show a car accident on the Grand Concourse, and the next thing you know, and then, I mean, if you were underhanded, you could say, hey, here's a news story of somebody who had an accident on the Grand Concourse.
Yeah, I think that the
Too
difference
crazy
between
for me, man. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, that's all right. The difference between prompting a computer program to take a picture of the Grand Concourse and stylize it, and what AI does is AI is doing something, producing an image as if it were the Grand Concourse. So it's not necessarily producing or reproducing something that is
Which would
real.
be like the Photoshop that the professor was just talking about.
Yeah.
Fascinating. Now, this last one, you have a sense of humor. I know that. This last one. And what's funny, now I'm going to talk to you about some inside BronxNet. I was just having a conversation with some of our engineers here about kind of doing things to improve the set. And I said, oh, wow, look at this. You created a new set for BronxTalk, although I don't know that I'm going to want to sit on a couch. But there, so what did you prompt? Let's see. Produce a photorealistic behind-the-scenes picture of a TV talk show host on the set of BronxTalk. And that's what they showed up with.
This is what Dolly imagined that would look like. Yeah.
Yeah, we're missing the carpet. But I love the background. I don't know if it works like the Danny Halbin paintings that we use. This is all very fascinating. And so, Professor Ryan, what do we need to do to rope this in? Or is this something that really will, for all time now, exist outside of our realm to be able to control it?
Well, I don't think you're going to kind of tie down the technology specifically. I mean, if you see any other example of technology in history, we've never controlled the internet. We've never succeeded in, controlling the phone network and keeping all scammers from making phone calls or, anything else. So I don't think we're going to suddenly develop that ability with AI.
I have to
never done
interject
before.
about that we think we control it because you take yourself off all those lists. I don't know. I think I just got one. You saw me pick up the phone, and I think it was a spam call while we were sitting here.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly. So I think we've never been able to prevent vehicle crime. So I don't think AI is going to be the first time we ever, as a society, say, oh, this time we've solved using this technology for ill. I don't think that's too likely. But I do think there are a lot of things that, just like AI itself is kind of just taking existing possibilities and making them kind of easier, cheaper, bringing to a mass market. There are a lot of things that maybe were having ideas before that are just a matter of applying them to AI or realizing they're more urgent because of AI. So, if we have that idea of scam callers or fake political calls, fake political ads, that's a problem that predates AI. But as these problems get cheaper, it may become more urgent because of AI. But the tools to crack down on that aren't necessarily AI tools. They're just tools that we already have, about the FTC cracking down on fake phone numbers, or, the Federal Election Commission cracking down on ad funding, things like that.
When I type an email on my Gmail account, and it finishes the sentence for me, and sometimes it's reasonably accurate. You just that's a version of AI. That's what we're talking about. Now, in preparation for this show, I went on like social media and Facebook and YouTube and other things and said, show me some of the stuff that has happened. But those platforms apparently have backed off leaving that stuff out. Now, let's show this crazy photograph. We have this picture of Donald Trump, which when I saw it before, it said AI-generated fake image. When I saw it, I was like, wait a minute, what actually is going on here? And then, of course, I realized it. But it appears that the legislation is trying to crack down on social media, and they are voluntarily not putting that up without some kind of indicator there.
That's right. President Biden has already issued an executive order against using fake AI images to do a lot of what is already illegal for, let's say, cyberstalking or catfishing. The No Fakes Act is winding its way through the Senate with the idea that it would be illegal to produce images of real people without their consent. And the European Union already has a draft large anti-fake AI bill and disclosure bill that is winding its way through the parliament.
So there's a chance. Now here's what we can't control. There was, now it hasn't been certified, but there was a rumor that some of the photos of the war in Gaza that came out were touched up or regenerated, or they showed bodies or whatever it was because of AI. It doesn't matter what legislation the United States Congress passes, but that's going to be, that is a real problem.
Yeah, and just as you were saying, this is not a new problem. We've had fake images from wars in the past, and the fog of war also presents some inaccurate information before we can find out what really happened, if ever. But AI makes it a lot easier to produce images like that.
I want to ask both of you this question. We'll start with you, Dr. Grabowski, about college papers. That now, it's one thing. I was an English major, and I mean, I don't know. I was always just writing my papers. But you're dealing with students with technology, and you ask them to submit a paper. They could very easily. Don't do this, kids. They could very easily say, AI, write me a paper about, and be very specific about what you want, and they wouldn't even have to learn to write, and maybe they would get, I mean, it would be educational, I suppose, because they could get some information. Is it a concern to you? Have you seen it? And if you have, how do you determine? I did read stories that some college professors found that work elsewhere, so they knew it was not originally generated. But how do you deal with it? Have you seen it?
Yeah,
and then you're getting the same question in a moment.
This is absolutely an issue that's front and center on colleges, campuses all over the world, really. And it's another iteration of the plagiarism issue that the internet introduced. Now, every technology is a cat and mouse game. For every technological barrier you put in place, there's a technological workaround. And so when students started finding papers online and submitting those, it was really easy to find those papers because professors could just search for those papers. Now with AI, there is no paper out there on the internet that is just like this. So what we have to do is know our students' work with them, scaffold the assignment so that we see the stages that they're working through. Some professors are resorting to oral exams.
I was going to say, make them write the paper in class.
Yeah.
I know it would be foreign. People can't even write anymore. But and what are your thoughts about that?
Well, those are all good strategies that I would happily endorse. But what I like to do is just have students write with AI. I mean, so just like we saw in those images, it's not like AI is getting everything right. So to me, just in the way that spell checkers, grammar checkers, got rid of some of those basic issues that students used to have with papers, and just kind of raised the bar. Now we're not worried about misspellings, we're worried about picking the right word, that kind of thing. I think AI can be just an opportunity for professors to raise the bar. So AI turns out grammatically correct paragraphs that are on topic. Now that's a baseline. That's what you have to do to pass. If you want an A, now you need to do the things that AI is not so good at. Things like giving the right citations, giving a really tightly crafted argument. The things we really want college students to be doing anyway.
I think about my own, because you talked about misspellings and stuff, and I remember submitting papers. I mean, we were typing them on typewriters. Don't start looking at my age, but we were typing them on typewriters, and then I would get circle marks like you misspelled this, especially as an English major. Let's just talk about the politics now. I saw there was a note that they're banning robocalls, AI robocalls. How are you going to stop it? I mean, apparently there was calls, where was it, in Iowa, supposedly being with the voice of, I almost said Professor Biden, of President Biden. What are your thoughts on the politics of it, which, get cut right to the core of who we are as people?
Well, I think the key for all of these things has to be kind of what in court we call provenance, or what the origin of something is. So a robocall, we might not be able to know in the moment or kind of fix the fact that someone's using an AI for a call, but that call is coming from a phone number, and someone at some point paid for access to the phone network. Not necessarily a lot of money, but they did do that. And there's a record of the financial system there. So you can track it through those issues.
You could be caught.
And we should be doing that anyway, not just about robocalls. There's all kinds of illegal campaign things, right? If you're making calls on behalf of a candidate without registering. You know, there's other issues. It's not just AI specific.
Right. And just to start wrapping it up, in terms of this whole political spectrum, what should voters think about it? Like, because you have to really examine your sources before you make judgments about whether former President Trump kissed Anthony Fauci.
Well, I think that's just it, and that's also a problem that's nothing new, is that everyone needs to have a little bit of media literacy, of understanding how images are produced.
Oh boy, do I agree with that. I mean, you know, obviously I'm on TV all the time. So when you go back into your classroom, do you talk about these issues, these ethical issues?
We do. We talk about the ethical issues. We actually have the students use the tools to see what they can do. We see what the tool is good at and what it's not good at. Right. And in the future, they're likely going to be using tools like this in their careers.
You know, and I started the show talking about the good things. Listen, if we're detecting cancer earlier, if we're doing robotic surgeries, I mean, this is all you know, wonderful applications of this very new software. Gentlemen, thank you so much. Professor Grabowski, thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Best regards to all our Manhattan students in that engineering building.
Thank you.
And Professor Miller, thank you. Of course, my alma mater is Lehman College, so you're serving all of us well. We thank you, both of us. Thank both of you for joining us tonight.
Thanks for having me downstairs.
You know, when I greeted them for real, I said, "Is this really you, or did you create some amalgam?" But in person, that's the way to do it. You know, I'm a communications person, and so I feel very strongly about learning to do this as opposed to this or the pictures or anything else. Anyway, thank you so much. We want to thank everybody. We thank our producer, Rebecca Hemick, our director, Will Guzman. We have a cast of thousands around us in the studio. And of course, to you, the people of the Bronx. And you know what we always say, if the curtain don't fall, the creek don't rise. We'll be back next week. Good night.